With that, I'm going to move to our next speaker, Rizwaan Sabir. He's a PhD student researching UK counter-terrorism in Glasgow. In May 2008, he was arrested as a suspected terrorist on campus of the University of Nottingham. He was in possession of 3 documents, all available from his library, that were being used for his postgraduate research on Al-Qaeda. He was detained for 6 days in solitary confinement and released without charge. To hear more, Brother Rizwaan. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me today. The brother gave such a good introduction, I've got nothing else to say now. So he's more or less fumbled my cards. The person who said to Nabil, before I met Nabil, I thought everyone was a terrorist. She met Nabil and she said, now I know they're all terrorists. I want to tell you that part. But thank you to Brother Abdullah for inviting me today and giving me this platform. I speak in 2 capacities. One as a researcher looking at British domestic counter-terrorism, and the other one is somebody who's been subjected to, let's say, ethnographic circumstances where I've encountered the anti-terrorism powers and the entire counter-terrorism structure firsthand. But I was Abdullah's second choice today, and the reason why I was Abdullah's second choice to be a speaker is what I'm here to discuss, and that is that after my arrest and release of myself and my colleague Hisham Yeza, a friend now, an academic at the University of Nottingham called Dr. Rob Thornton wrote a report recently. Some of you may have got some of the cuttings in the press. Noam Chomsky signed a letter along with 69 other academics asking for his reinstatement. He wrote a report using internal communications obtained under the Data Protection Act and the Freedom of Information Act, compiled a 112-page investigative research paper, which essentially, it would seem, exposed the University of Nottingham's malfeasance and malevolence towards, one, their calling the police on the campus by neglecting their duty of care and also failing in following government guidance and guidelines that were issued, and secondly, using, what I say, it would seem, abusing their power and position within a established elite Russell Group institution to cover up their mistakes and, as Alan Simpson, former MP for Nottingham South, said, anti-terror cock-up. And I think that was essentially the best way to describe it. So what does the Nottingham case show? You know, this is something that once I start looking at prevent and counter-terrorism, is it shows the flip side of preventative policy becoming embedded within higher education establishments. Now, I don't need to sit down, I'm sure many of you have been to university or know people who have been to universities, will understand that academic freedom is the freedom for academics and researchers and students to have a look at information and to say things that are not necessarily nice, but they're not illegal. But the Nottingham case and this prevention policy doesn't tie into academic freedom, it ties into freedom per se. Because under this prevention policy, it's now illegal, or certainly questionable, when you say certain things that are not illegal in the classic common law sense. Now, one of the reasons, I always ask myself, why? Why is it that I was arrested for having 3 books or 2 journal articles and 1 document obtained from the US government website available in the library? Why was I arrested? Now the point is, it's that preventative kind of understanding has seeped into academia, where Muslims are seen through this lens of suspect, essentially. But why is this policy? Now, through my PhD, I've been looking at, this is really preliminary research, so I won't go on with it too long. But essentially it seems that the approach that we've got in a domestic context is counterinsurgency. So, when people say we've got to win the hearts and minds of the Muslim community, everyone thinks, oh God, not that really cliche word again. But it's deeper than that. It's not just a cliche term. It's because it was seen the policy is based on a counterinsurgency approach. That is, that you target the entire community within which the insurgent, i.e. the terrorist, operates. Now, that only makes sense. Now, there's been a lot of allegations and a lot of reports about spying, about intelligence gathering in prevent, whether it's at universities, whether it's in communities, or whether it's in other institutions or establishments. Now, that doesn't make sense on its own, but when you look at it through the targeting of the entire community, and you look at what the purpose of that targeting is, it makes sense. You need all this random disparate information, which counterinsurgents have said themselves, which dictate the policy, counterterrorism policy in Britain. You need random information that you can feed into a wider system called Project Rich Picture. But when that churns and the output comes out, that's when you get your targeted approach. So it wasn't an accident that Prevent was targeted at universities or indiscriminately across all communities. It was about targeting the entire community on purpose. Now we've got an understanding of where the problem is. We can say, oh look, hang on, guys, we made a mistake here. We weren't targeting everyone, it was new to us. 7/7 happened, we had no idea what we were doing. No, that's not the point. The point was you knew what it was doing, that's what the purpose was. But now you have that processed information, now you know, right, Muslim kids that are 18 to 25 are a big pain in the butt, therefore we need to target them. That's where the targeted approach comes in. Now universities have been picked out for, under the new Prevent, or whatever it's being called nowadays, to target Prevent within universities. Now, I don't need to sit here and criticise Prevent anymore, because I think I've done a pretty good job of it so far. But the case of Nottingham shows that preventative policy, how it can essentially cock up and cock up real bad. And it's not only against Muslims. I mean, Rob Thornton, right, just to provide a bit of context, his politics are centre-right. He's a Middle English man, right? White, non-Muslim, and he's a former advisor to the United States Department of Defense and the Ministry of Defense. He served in Northern Ireland and Boston. He's been given the Queen's Gallantry Medal by the Queen herself for bravery. Now this isn't your usual left-wing, rebel-rousing, nutjob tree-hugging person. This individual genuinely feels that an injustice has been done. Now when he has dared to speak up against the establishment, what does he get? He gets suspended. Suspended for what? Alleged remarks of, allegedly his report is defamatory. Okay, so now the university, not only did they allegedly make a cock-up in the first place, now they're claiming his report is defamatory. So they are now the judge and jury, and therefore they are now deciding that his report is defamatory. If his report is defamatory, that's not a decision for a university to make. That's for a court within the United Kingdom and a jury to make. Why has he been suspended? It would seem that it's reversed. In fact, they're defaming him now by claiming that he is in fact defamated, that his report is defamatory. This is an absolutely disgraceful example where discrimination, and I won't use Islamophobia, and I won't use that word on purpose, because it's not only two Muslim men that have been subjected to it, it's a white man who's a non-Muslim. So it's actually bigger than just Islamophobia, it's discrimination per se, where if anybody who speaks up against the establishment in support of Muslims is also targeted. And I think this is a prime example. I've absolutely lost track of time and I've stopped to rant, so excuse me. So what are we doing at the moment? And I'm hoping that some of you might come and speak to me after if I've frightened you to death. And to ask in which ways we can help. Now, we've started a campaign. We're a small group of people who are just concerned about some of the repercussions of what's happening, and it's a lot bigger than just me now, so I'm not just doing this for me. It's another person's life and potentially his career that's on the line. When the fact that he stood up and spoken up for me and my comrade and colleague essentially means that he probably, if he loses his job, he probably won't be able to get another job within an academic institution. At the end of the day, who wants to employ a whistleblower that is going to challenge the authority that pays his bills? Nobody. So we need to ensure that the support basis is provided for individuals like this who are brave and courageous and have the guts to stand up and say no. Rob Thornton has nothing to gain from this. On the contrary, he has everything to lose. His career, his established name, his reputation. Yet he sacrificed all of it. And for what? Some snotty PhD student or some snotty postgraduate student one day who downloaded something that was a bit silly, even though it's legal. At the end of the day, he needs our support. So what do? Go to academicfreedom.co.uk. I'm sorry to plug this, but it's really important. There's 2 template letters that will be on there within the next couple of days, right? And it's being sent to MPs and the Registrar of the University of Nottingham. Now, essentially, all we want is an independent public inquiry to be carried out in accordance with the Public Inquiries Act, so it's legally binding, right, into the University of Nottingham. I'm confident that if we get that inquiry, 1, it will conclude in our favour, because I believe the evidence that Bob Thornton has provided is absolutely compelling. And secondly, it will change the preventative techniques that are now being pressurized, universities are now being pressurized by accept. So it will change that. And I think this one example of Nottingham, this beautiful campus, if anybody has ever seen it, right? It's about going in there, applying pressure and ensuring that the systems and the checks and balances exist. So when the management at a university can come across something and think, oh no, we've got a problem, there's terrorists on campus, they can't just pick the phone up, it would seem, and call the police, and the police send 26 police officers in and detain people for 6 days, or 7 days and 6 nights, and search their homes and evict their parents and turn their entire lives upside down. You know, you've got to ensure that the right checks and balances are in place, and I think that if we get this inquiry, and Rob Thornton is reinstated, it will change the face of British academia in regards to counter-terrorism. And therefore, that's why we need your support. And I hope to God that you'll provide that support. And I think I'm actually done earlier, which is quite surprising. Thank you very much.